In both single player or multiplayer, we generally discover a preference towards certain things in the gameplay or in the modes provided in multiplayer. Whether you want something slow and tactical like Counter-Strike, or something fast-paced and large like Titanfall 2 or Apex, or even something that harkens back to the days of deathmatch-based multiplayer in small arenas like in Quake, with the fast movement added to it. The options we have now are great, and if one camp doesn't suit you, then you'll usually fit into the next one. Whether you're a single player or multiplayer guy, the style of game is something for you to decide either way. But Redmatch 2, a free indie multiplayer shooter, seems to bring forth aspects from both fast-paced and slow-paced multiplayer shooters. In the game you have both fast-paced movement and a relatively low time to kill, in contrast to what you would see in Quake or in other arena shooters. Redmatch 2 is a reflection of an old-school style multiplayer experience that's simple and to the point. You're not defusing bombs or rescuing hostages, not carrying the payload or anything like that. Just simple deathmatch-based modes where all you have to do is kill people. It's a free-to-play multiplayer shooter developed by Rugbug Redfern, who wanted to make something that was fairly easy to pick up and play, but also create an experience with satisfying movement to boot. I generally gravitate towards games with good movement like Modern Warfare 2019 or Modern Warfare 3, Quake, or when I'm playing single player, it's stuff like Doom Eternal or Ultra Kill, where I get my movement fix. This game does the same thing as well, but without making me install over 100 gigs like what Destiny 2 does. In any event, let's get into this game and talk a little bit about Redmatch 2. When you first see the game, it looks like it's still in a development stage, something that you would see in a Unity project, which it's made in by the way, given that its appearance does look like a polished prototype on the surface. Well, the developer used prototype-based textures and objects so that the visual appearance wouldn't be too much for the player to process. They're the type of textures that you would often see during the early stages of developing a game when it's in the prototype stage. But in the case of Redmatch 2, the developer decided to make an entire game wrapped around those textures, and honestly, I think it suits the simple aesthetic of the game quite well. It's kind of like turning Kovacs into a fully fledged multiplayer arena shooter rather than just being an aim trainer. A lot of the default maps will have a variety of colors, but not a lot of defined objects like you would see in other games. It's kind of similar to the untextured style that Reflex Arena goes for. People that want a bit more than that are going to be disappointed when they want a bit more visual flair in the scenery and the environments. But ultimately, the core gameplay side of a good multiplayer experience is more important in the long run, and Redmatch 2 really nails it. Whenever I hop into a game, I don't feel like I need to warm up or anything, I can just go straight into it and start playing, and that's part of the game's charm, its simple and pick up to play aspect. A first time player will do reasonably well in this game and see some results, whereas a first time player in something like Quake will see a huge uphill battle right before them. Redmatch 2's gameplay revolves around deathmatch-based modes, where you kill the enemy team while other players try to secure the top spot, and you do this with 4 weapons, a grappling hook, and upgrades to your jump, speed, and health. In Redmatch 2, you have 4 weapons to use at your disposal, including a melee attack, the assault rifle, shotgun, sniper rifle, and revolver. All 4 weapons handled differently, and there's not much to them really. The movement in this game can get pretty fast, so your aimbotting skills will only get you so far if you aren't moving and don't count for distance. Each weapon also has an option to change scopes, and you even have an iron sight option for them. But after a few playthroughs, I've concluded that it's much easier to just have a scope for each weapon, making it much easier to aim since it can be tricky to align your weapon against the target using an iron sight, especially if you're sniping with it. Time to kill is fairly low if you can connect all of your hits. It's not like in Quake where the time to kill is significantly higher. The movement itself is quick, but the targets aren't too difficult to hit because of their bulky appearance. If you've seen the body shapes in aim labs or Kovacs, then it's pretty similar here. Just point and shoot at the targets as if you're aim training and you'll get kills in no time, as well as dying a lot too while you're at it. The game has a server browser where you can either find or create matches. Each server will also have their own modifiers and conditions as well. One match could reduce the damage of snipers, or another might make it so that the session is an hour long and everything one-shots. When you create your own server, you can set the conditions that you yourself want, even removing the grappling hook mechanic that this game is known for, something that we'll get into a second. I've used the word simple or easy to pick up a few times for this game, but that's just really it. There's nothing really complicated about Redmatch 2. Sure, you can train and increase your skill at it, but it's also the kind of game where you can play it casually and still have fun and still do decently well in it. And that's something that a lot of people in the multiplayer scene are looking for nowadays. Games like Fortnite or Counter-Strike, Valorant, Call of Duty or Apex have a lot of people playing competitively, even when, they just treat it casually. And the people that want to actually play the game casually feel like they can't because in their perspective, everyone else is playing the game as if it's a major. Redmatch 2 wasn't made to be anything like that, and I feel like that people that want something with a more casual approach where they can just play and have fun will enjoy Redmatch 2. The other big part of the game is the movement and its grappling hook mechanic. The game itself is fairly fast, but it's even faster once you have a handle grappling your way through the arenas. You can swing with the left, the right, or with both ropes. This mechanic gives you a lot more verticality and speed that will make it harder for other enemies to hit you overall. Some of the maps in this game revolve around this mechanic, while others give you the option to use it, but it's not really necessary. The grappling mechanic is a skill in itself, and you can use it for long distances as well. This gives Redmatch 2 more of a sandbox feel, even in spite of its small-sized maps. Speaking of which, a lot of the default maps are pretty fun to play, and because of the game modes usually consisting of either deathmatch or team deathmatch, you'll never have a problem finding people to play with. But the fun doesn't stop there though, because the game also has a modding scene as well, in the guise of custom maps and resource packs. Through the game's workshop, you can find new maps to play on, or use resource packs to give you new skins for weapons, new menu changes, or new effects. Modding is something that has benefited single-player games for a long time, and it's just as beneficial in the multiplayer scene, but you don't see it as much, and I really do appreciate it when it is implemented. One of my favorite shooters in the past, Krunker.io, had a similar thing going for it where you could customize your own experience and add custom skins using resource packs. Redmatch 2 is similar in that respect, and modding allows for more custom content to play on. Then there's the mapping scene itself to boot. Even though a lot of the default maps have a prototype look to them, you can also create your own custom maps for the game using different kinds of textures, and the diversity of custom content is pretty extensive here. You have maps that recreate areas from other games like the castle from Super Mario 64, or the map Ascension from Halo 2, or even Dust 2 from Counter-Strike. The variety of custom content here is pretty awesome, and it's something I've always appreciated in multiplayer games ever since playing Counter-Strike Source and Team Fortress 2. I think it's something that every multiplayer game should have, custom options to curate your own experience more easily, like what Counter-Strike or Fortnite does basically. But that's a topic for another time. You have levels in the game, but that's something that you can accumulate quickly, which you can use to unlock certain effects. If you want to max the levels quickly, then either set up a hour-long deathmatch with one-shot kills or join one and just grind the game out. You also have skins for your character, but they are paid for skins that you can buy in bundles, so it's optional. It's mainly there for skin hoarders or for people that want to support the developer since it's free, and when something's free to play, you still have to make money somehow. One other anomaly you'll unfortunately run into sometimes are hackers or cheaters. I say anomaly because they don't stay around for long, and when it's painfully obvious, they usually get kicked from the server. They come and go like the wind, but it's nowhere near as bad as what you see in Counter-Strike 2. Now, that's not to say that it isn't a problem in the game itself, but I have seen much worse. The 4 weapons are fun to use and they have a good feel to them, but there's nothing else to use and the customization to them is still pretty limited. I think the game could benefit from more weapon variety, even if it means slowly rolling them into the game and balancing them out so that it doesn't break the game too much. Even in spite of a new project in the works using the Godot engine, Redmatch 2 still has a dedicated community where changes are always welcome, as well as new additions. Speaking of the player base, it's pretty small, but matches are easy to find because you can always find a game in the server or just create one where players are more likely to join. The player count can go from 90 to more than 200 players during certain times of the day. You'll usually play with other players from previous matches with some new ones in between. But because of the use of servers rather than quick play and matchmaking like in COD, you can create a community around the server and have regular sessions rather than being with random people every match. At the end of the day, Redmatch 2 is a really fun multiplayer shooter that's fast-paced and easy to pick up, has a limited but great modding scene with various resource packs and maps. Grappling is a lot of fun on the maps that revolve around it, and the gunplay isn't too difficult to grasp. There are other modes that I haven't talked about much, like Infection, which I didn't really like in this game because whenever a round would end, it would take you right back to the menu to then select another map, which got really annoying for me. I have yet to try some of the other modes, but I may try them out at a later time. All I really wanted was a deathmatch-like experience, and this game does a really good job of providing that. If you've tried it at an earlier stage in its development cycle, it may be worth trying it now because it's more complete compared to before. plus the modding content added to it enhances the experience. But if it is your first time, now is a good opportunity to try it out because, again, like I said, it's night and day compared to its earlier years. Redmatch 2 is a game that I will be playing on and off whenever I want a more casual-oriented multiplayer experience, something that's not very easy to find anymore. But if you are looking for that, then give Redmatch 2 a try. Stay tuned, and thank you for watching.